Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
I would like to ask you, as the head of the International Federation in Sri Lanka, about the recent achievements in the last year or two of the Federation while working in Sri Lanka.
Okay, the Federation has two main objectives in Sri Lanka. One is the efficient and effective implementation of tsunami recovery programs, and the other is support to the development of Sri Lanka Red Cross core area programming. With regard to tsunami recovery programming, it's a process that will continue from 2005 until 2010 and is involving us in the construction of 30,000 houses, 67 health facilities and the provision of clean water to 500,000 people, along with other smaller programs. With regard to Sri Lanka Red Cross, we've been working with SLRCS in support of their new strategic plan 2008 to 2012 and the development of their programming in disaster management, health and care in the community, organisational development and the promotion of humanitarian values.
And Paul, what do you feel have been the biggest challenges for the Federation to carry out its work in the most efficient manner?
I think with regard to tsunami programming, it's been the huge size and complexity of the program itself. Sri Lanka is a country which before the tsunami built around 5,000 houses a year, and 100,000 houses were destroyed in the tsunami. So the country had to increase its capacity enormously to rebuild. The Federation and the Red Cross movement is the largest donor to tsunami housing recovery, and the ability to locate contractors and consultants to build 30,000 houses was a huge challenge, in addition to the hospitals and water facilities that we're constructing.
After the tsunami, there was a huge international response in terms of providing relief for the tsunami victims. How do you place the International Federation's work in the overall perspective of humanitarian relief in Sri Lanka?
We're the biggest donor, and that carries with it a huge responsibility for accountability to the beneficiaries, accountability to donors, and accountability to the governments and the people and the Red Cross Society of Sri Lanka itself. And I think that we have struggled to carry out those responsibilities. The scale of programming has been enormous, and the capacity of Sri Lanka to manage that volume of programming has been a real challenge. But now we're about 60% of the way through as we speak now in April 2008, and we expect the tsunami programming to be completed more or less on time by September 2010.
And what are the other initiatives of the Federation? Do you have any long-term plans or long-term proposals that you are working on for the Sri Lankan people?
Yes, I mean once the recovery programs are finished, we want to work to coordinate partnerships between the Sri Lanka Red Cross and the donor Red Cross and Red Crescent societies to help SLRCS become the key provider of services to the most vulnerable in Sri Lanka in disaster management, health and care. And we're working to develop relationships between SLRCS and its donors, its local donors and the government of Sri Lanka to position SLRCS as an auxiliary and to develop community level programming in those areas.
One last question, Paul, is that initially there were a lot of skeptics who were saying the work is taking off very slowly and it's not having a great enough impact. How do you react at this stage to such impressions?
We focused initially on emergency response and relief for the first 9 months, and that program went very well. We took a decision not to do transitional shelter because other agencies were doing it very well. And so we focused on permanent reconstruction of houses, hospitals and water facilities and infrastructure. Permanent structures take a lot longer than temporary shelter, and that's primarily why it took longer to achieve the tsunami recovery programming in Sri Lanka than it did, for example, in Indonesia, which focused on transitional and temporary shelter. But I think that we correctly focused on quality rather than speed, and in 10 years' time people will remember us for our quality, and I think that was a correct decision.
Thank you, Paul, and all the best for your work.
Thank you.